My husband's ex-wife knocked on my door and begged me to take him back. That's the moment everything in my life shifted. Not with thunder, not with shouting, not with anger. No, baby, sometimes the truth arrives quietly, trembling on the lips of a woman who finally ran out of places to hide. I can still see her standing there on my front porch that morning. Her coat was too thin for the cold. Her hair pulled back in a loose bun like she hadn't slept. And her hands. Lord, her hands shook so badly she had to press them together just to keep them still. She said my name soft, uncertain. Like she wasn't sure she deserved to speak it. Please, she whispered, we need to talk. It's about Marcus. My husband. The man I thought I'd been blessed with. The man I believed I'd build a life with. The man whose smile could warm a room and whose silence could freeze one. I remember the way my throat tightened. How my heartbeat stuttered. How I stepped aside and let her in because something in her eyes told me this wasn't jealousy or bitterness or some messy ex-wife drama. No, this was something darker, heavier, more dangerous. And when she finally sank onto my couch and placed her trembling hands on her knees, she said the words that broke the foundation of my marriage. I'm begging you, leave him before he destroys you too. If you had asked me 6 months earlier what my life looked like, I would have said, steady, warm, hopeful. I had just turned 42. I worked as a school administrator, nothing glamorous, but the kind of job that gives you routine and purpose. I had my little house with the teal shutters, my quiet mornings with coffee and an old gospel playlist, my plants on the windowsill leaning toward the sun like they knew something good was coming. And then, Marcus arrived. Or rather, he reappeared. We'd known each other when we were young, neighbors, not friends. He was the boy who always had something charming in his smile and something wounded in his eyes. Life had stretched us in different directions, but last year he found me again on social media. I always wondered how you turned out, he messaged. We talked for hours that first night. Then days. Then weeks. And the loneliness I didn't even know I'd been carrying began to melt. Piece by piece. Word by word. Marcus was attentive in ways that felt rare. He called me every night. He brought lunch to my job just because. He fixed the loose hinge on my kitchen cabinet without me even asking. He had this way of making me feel like the sun had just come back out after a long winter. So when he proposed that quiet evening in my living room, just the two of us, no big gestures, just emotion, I said yes. And for a while, life was sweet. We cooked together. We took slow walks in the evening. We talked about dreams, small ones, nothing dramatic. A vacation. A garden. Maybe a second dog. But every now and then, something about him felt off. A little too charming. A little too smooth. A little too polished in the moments when most people stumble. He always avoided questions about his ex-wife, Lisa. He always tightened his jaw when money came up. He always told stories that made him the victim, his boss, his past partners, even his own family. I told myself everyone had scar tissue. I told myself love meant patience. I told myself marriage meant holding each other's burdens. And for a while, I believed all that was true. Until the day she came to my door. I remember the smell of fresh coffee drifting through the house that morning. I'd just swept the hallway. The radio was playing quietly, some old R&B that made the morning feel soft and ordinary. Then came the knock. Not the hurried knock of a neighbor. Not the double tap of a delivery driver. A slow, shaking knock like someone mustered up the courage with each tap. When I opened the door, there she stood. Lisa, Marcus's ex-wife. The woman he said was bitter, manipulative, unstable. Someone who couldn't let go. But she didn't look like any of the things he had described. She looked scared. Can we talk? She asked. I hesitated, but something in her voice felt too human to ignore. So I let her in. She sat on the very edge of my couch, like she didn't trust herself to sink deeper. Her eyes flicked around the room, not judging, just remembering. She'd been here before. I knew it without asking. After a long silence, she said, I should have come sooner. I should have warned you before he moved in. My chest tightened. Warn me about what? She looked at me with eyes full of pain I didn't understand yet. About Marcus, she whispered. About who he really is. I felt my breath catch. What are you talking about? She clenched her hands so tightly I could see her knuckles pale. He treated me like a queen at first too, she said. Until he didn't. My stomach churned. He drained me financially, emotionally. He lied about debts, lied about jobs, lied about everything he needed to get what he wanted. My hands suddenly felt cold. And when I finally left, she said softly, "He found you." I shook my head slowly. "Why are you telling me this now?" She leaned forward, tears filling her eyes. "Because you're his next target. And if you don't get out now, you won't recognize yourself in a year." Her voice broke then, not dramatic, not loud, just honest. "He is going to hollow you out, the same way he hollowed me." I stared at her, heart thudding in my chest. "He's not who you think he is," she said. "And you need to leave him before it's too late." That's when I felt something, a small, sharp crack inside me. Because deep down, beneath the love and the comfort and the hope, I already knew she was telling the truth. Or at least, the beginning of it. After she left, the house felt colder. Not because of the weather, but because truth has a way of slipping into the room long after the person who carried it is gone. It sits with you. It lingers. I stood in the quiet, staring at the door she'd walked out of, replaying her words over and over again. "He's not who you think he is. You're his next target. Leave him before it's too late." I told myself I shouldn't believe her. That marriages end for reasons. That ex-wives sometimes speak from a place of pain, not clarity. But the thing is, her voice didn't sound angry. It sounded tired. Tired in a way you can't fake. And deep down, I felt something shift. A small whisper, "Pay attention." But by the time Marcus came home that evening, I had smoothed my face into something soft and normal. A woman who loved her husband. A woman who trusted him. He walked in with that charming smile he always wore, the one he knew could melt the chill off anybody. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. "Something smells good." I had a pot of beans simmering, cornbread in the oven. It should have been a warm scene, ordinary, comforting. But that whisper stayed. He took off his jacket, tossed it a little too casually across the armchair, and rubbed his hands together like he couldn't wait to settle in. "How was your day?" he asked, opening the fridge like he owned the place completely. "Quiet," I said. "Nothing more. Nothing less. Just quiet." He hummed, pouring himself sweet tea, and for a moment I watched him move around my kitchen, his shoulders relaxed, his steps confident, that familiar charm radiating from him like a polished performance. And suddenly something felt wrong. Not big wrong. Not loud wrong. Just unfamiliar. Like I was looking at someone I thought I knew, but in a lighting I'd never seen before. He glanced at me then. "You good?" he asked with that smooth voice that once comforted me. "Yes," I lied, smiling softly. "Just tired." He nodded, accepting that answer too easily, like he'd never needed the truth from me anyway. Over the next week, nothing dramatic happened. There were no explosions, no arguments, no revelations that shattered the world. No, baby. Toxic people don't reveal themselves all at once. They leak, little by little. A cold comment here, a small lie there. A door closed a little too quickly. A bill left unanswered. A story told differently the second time. Like the morning I noticed his phone face down at breakfast, something he'd never done before. Or how he flinched when I casually asked, "Do you ever hear from Lisa?" His jaw tightened, not in anger, but in strategy. "No," he said too quickly. "Why?" "I was just thinking about her." "Don't," he said, his voice tense. "She's not part of our life." But the firmness in his tone felt rehearsed. Like he'd said that same line before. To someone else. It was around this time the financial hints started showing. Nothing alarming, just little moments that didn't sit right. Marcus always talked big investments, opportunities, future plans. But when I asked simple questions, "So how much did this new job pay again? When are you getting your first check? Did the loan application go through?" he would laugh lightly, kiss my forehead, and say, "Sweetheart, don't worry about all that. I've got us." But every time, he avoided specifics. And every time, that whisper grew. "Pay attention." One evening, I was organizing the mail and found 2 envelopes addressed to him. both unopened, both from banks. He snatched them from my hand with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Just junk mail," he said, then slid them into his jacket pocket. I told myself not to push, not to assume, not to invade. But a part of me knew men don't hide junk mail. Not with that kind of urgency. The more little things I noticed, the more her voice echoed in my mind. He drained me financially. He lied about everything. He looks for women with big hearts. And he empties them. One night, after Marcus fell asleep, I lay awake in the dark beside him, listening to the soft sound of his breathing. I watched the silhouette of his face in the moonlight. And suddenly I felt like I was lying next to a stranger. Not because something obvious had changed, but because something buried had risen. A truth I didn't want. A truth I wasn't ready for. But a truth nonetheless. I closed my eyes and prayed, softly, silently, "Lord, show me what I need to see, not what I want to see." Because sometimes love becomes a curtain. Soft, pretty, comforting. But it can also hide the fire burning behind it. It came on a Thursday afternoon. Marcus was supposed to be at work. But when I passed by the grocery store after school, I saw him outside, leaning against his car, talking to a woman. Not Lisa. Not someone I recognized. Someone younger. He wasn't touching her. He wasn't flirting openly. It was the way he was standing. Relaxed. Confident. Smiling with the same warmth he used to melt me. I froze. Just stood there at the end of the parking lot, hidden behind my steering wheel, watching him smile like that. And that's when it hit me, he had many versions of that smile. And I wasn't special. Not in the way I thought. Not in the way I needed. My chest tightened, but I didn't drive over. I didn't make a scene. I just watched. Watched long enough to understand one small but devastating truth. Marcus didn't stumble into trouble. He curated it. As I sat in my car, my hands gripping the steering wheel, another thought surfaced, slow, painful, undeniable. What else had I missed? And in that moment, I knew Lisa hadn't come to warn me out of jealousy or spite. She'd come because she recognized the look in my eyes. The look of a woman standing on the edge of a cliff she didn't even know she'd been approaching. The truth didn't reveal itself in one moment. It came slowly, quietly, like water dripping through a crack you never noticed in the ceiling, until one day the whole plaster gives way and you're standing under a rain you never asked for. That Thursday night, after seeing Marcus in that parking lot, I came home early. I didn't slam the door. I didn't question him when he returned. I didn't accuse or demand or cry. Instead, I cooked dinner. Beans, cornbread, collard greens, the kind of food that keeps your hands busy when your heart is uneasy. When Marcus walked in, smelling like cologne and cold air, he greeted me with the same smooth warmth he always used. "Smells good, sweetheart." Kissed my cheek. Set his bag down. Washed his hands. Routine. Rehearsed. Predictable. I watched him from across the kitchen, the steam from the pot rising between us like fog. And for the first time, I saw something in him I hadn't dared to name before, a performance. Not the honest kind, the charming kind. The manipulative kind. The kind that makes you question yourself before you question him. He sat down at the table, reached for the cornbread, and said, "You okay? You look quiet." Quiet. The word almost made me laugh. Quiet was survival. Quiet was observation. Quiet was protection. I smiled softly. Just tired. He accepted that answer, same as always. The way men do when they don't want to know more than you're willing to tell. But while he ate, my eyes drifted to the jacket he had tossed over the dining chair. The jacket with the unopened bank letters buried inside the pocket. The jacket he guarded too quickly, too tightly. A thought tugged at me, gentle at first, then firm, then insistent. Look inside. It happened 2 days later. Marcus had stepped out to meet a friend about a business idea. Another one of his big plans. Another opportunity he described with vague words and wide gestures that never led anywhere concrete. As soon as I heard his car pull out of the driveway, something inside me tightened. Not impulse. Not suspicion. Intuition. The kind of intuition that rises from the stomach, not the mind, the kind that whispers, "You are not safe as long as you are blind." I walked into the bedroom, moving slowly, like the floor itself might break open if I stepped too hard. His dresser drawer, the top right one, was always locked. Always. He said it was for important papers. He said it was just private stuff. He said, "Why does it matter, sweetheart?" Trust me. Trust. That word suddenly felt heavier than anything in my house. I'd never gone through his things before. I'd never had reason to. But the feeling in my chest told me, you're not invading privacy, you're reclaiming your safety. I checked the usual places for the key. Not in the nightstand. Not under the jewelry box. Not in his suit pockets. I found it in a place that made my blood run cold, his Bible. Tucked between Psalms and Proverbs like it belonged there. A holy hiding place for an unholy truth. My hand trembled as I slid the key into the lock and turned it, the click echoing in the quiet bedroom. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Then I opened the drawer. And everything inside me changed. Inside the drawer were neatly stacked manila folders. Organized. Labeled. Categorized. Not the chaos of a disorganized man. The strategy of a calculated one. The first folder had a name written across it. Lisa. My breath caught. I opened it carefully. Inside were copies of her pay stubs, her bank statements, credit card bills, loan applications, debt notices, a copy of her divorce settlement, and handwritten notes from Marcus. My heart thudded. I lifted one note. His handwriting. Push her toward joint account. Once she's fully dependent, start process. She's emotional, easy to redirect. My knees almost buckled. I sat on the edge of the bed, the paper shaking in my hand. Another note. Keep pressure subtle. Make her feel guilty. Emotional leverage works best after arguments. I pressed a hand to my mouth. Tears blurred my vision. This wasn't a messy breakup. This wasn't a miscommunication. This wasn't two people who fell out of love. This was a pattern, a plan, a system. A man who studied women the way hunters study their prey. And then I found a second folder, labeled Current. My stomach twisted. My throat closed. The folder was thin, only a few papers so. Far. But enough. Enough to see the shape of my own destruction forming before it had bloomed. Bank account inquiries. Loan brochures. A budget drafted in his handwriting. My name on lines that weren't yet signed. And one note that nearly ripped my soul out. Give it 6 to 12 months. Build trust. Start consolidating accounts. Encourage joint purchases. Remind her of financial security. My name was written at the top. My name, like he'd already chosen me for the role. I don't know how long I sat there. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. Time bends when pain enters the room. My chest felt tight, like someone had gripped my heart with cold fingers. My hands went numb. The air seemed thin, too thin to hold everything I was feeling all at once. The love I had for him. The trust I'd given him. The future I'd imagined with him. All of it shattered. Silently. Completely. Without mercy. The man I'd married wasn't a man who struggled. He was a man who schemed. A man who shaped himself around your insecurities. A man who mirrored back whatever love you needed so he could use it later. A man who learned your softness just to weaponize it. I closed the drawer slowly. Locked it. Held the key in my hand so tightly the ridges pressed into my skin. For the first time since we married, I was afraid of my husband. Not physically. Not violently. But emotionally. Financially. Strategically. Because nothing is more dangerous than a charming man with a pattern and a plan. Later that night, after I'd hidden the key in my own safe place, I stepped onto the porch with shaking hands and dialed a number I never thought I would. Lisa answered on the second ring. Hello. I swallowed hard. It's me, I whispered. You were right. She didn't say, I told you so. She didn't sigh or gloat or take pleasure. She just breathed out slowly, like she'd been waiting for that call for a long, long time. What did you find? She asked gently. I closed my eyes. A folder, I said. With your name. And mine. The silence on the line wasn't surprise. It was familiarity. Recognition. Survival. And then she said something that made my whole body tremble. That's how it starts. After I hung up the phone with Lisa, I sat on my porch for a long time. The night air felt heavy against my skin, warm but suffocating, the way a blanket feels when it stops comforting and starts smothering. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. A car door slammed. Life kept going around me like nothing had happened. But inside my chest, something had broken quietly and completely. Not the kind of break that makes you fall apart. The kind that makes you wake up. And once you wake up, baby, you can't unsee the truth. Marcus wasn't just a man with flaws. He wasn't a man with money issues. He wasn't a man who had bad luck with relationships. He was a man with patterns. Patterns with paperwork. Patterns with women. Patterns with emotional leverage. Patterns with financial destruction. And now he had started a folder for me. A folder that wasn't yet filled, but waiting. A future he'd planned without my consent. A life where I slowly stopped being myself and started being a resource. Something to use. To squeeze. To drain. To leave behind once empty. My heartbeat thudded unevenly. I felt sick. But I also felt something else building underneath the fear. Resolve. Quiet, steady resolve. The kind that rises like heat beneath the skin. The kind my mother used to call the moment your backbone remembers it's a backbone. I stood up, went inside, and locked the door. Then I began to plan. I didn't confront Marcus that night. Confrontation would have been emotional. Emotional would have made noise. Noise would have warned him. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open, hands still trembling, and logged into all my accounts. Bank, credit card, insurance, retirement. Every password changed. Every recovery email updated. Every login alert turned on. Then I did something I never thought I'd need to do. I created a separate savings account under my name only, with two-factor authentication Marcus would never guess. I moved half my available cash into it. My hands shook the entire time, but not from fear. From adrenaline. From clarity. From the strength that comes when you finally see your life from above, not from inside the fog. I unlocked his drawer again the next morning, after Marcus left for work, whatever that meant. This time I didn't read the papers. I photographed them. Every bill. Every note. Every document with his handwriting on it. Every reference to me, my finances, his plan. Page after page. Evidence. Not for revenge. For protection. Because when a manipulative man realizes you've escaped his script, he doesn't thank you for your honesty. He rewrites the script. He turns himself into the victim. He turns you into the offender. He turns the world upside down and expects you to stand steady on the ceiling. I wasn't giving him that chance. Not this time. Not with me. I didn't change my behavior around him. Not one bit. I cooked his meals. Sat beside him on the couch. Listened to his stories about business meetings I now knew were lies. I even laughed at his jokes. Because I'd learned something watching him, manipulative people read reactions like maps. They look for the detours. They look for the shift in tone, the change in breath, the tightening of a jaw. So I gave him none. Not a drop. I let him believe I was still soft. Still blind. Still wrapped in the fantasy he built. But inside me, the softness was turning to steel. One evening, he sat at the kitchen table, scribbling numbers in a notebook, one of his future plans. Or so I thought. I walked behind him to grab a dish towel, and I caught a glimpse. Not numbers. Names. Women's names. 5 of them. With ages. Cities. Income brackets. He quickly covered the page when he noticed my shadow. Just planning that business thing, he said with a smile too sharp to be warm. I nodded. Of course. But inside me, something snapped. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just a clean, final click. Like a lock opening. Or closing. I met with an attorney 2 days later. A calm, sharp-eyed woman who didn't flinch when I told her everything. She listened quietly, taking notes, occasionally nodding with the kind of expression that said, "You're not the first. And you won't be the last." When I finished, she leaned forward. "Marcus fits the pattern of a chronic financial abuser," she said gently. "People like him rarely change. They just rotate targets." My throat tightened. What do I do? I whispered. She slid a folder across the table. We prepare. We protect your assets. And when you're ready, you leave, strategically, quietly, and with everything documented. Her voice was steady. You're not trapped. You're getting ahead. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. What confirmed everything wasn't a document, wasn't a lie, wasn't even the other women's names. It was something smaller. One morning, I made breakfast, eggs, toast, fruit. Marcus sat down, checked his phone, and frowned. Rent's due soon, he said casually. I blinked. Rent. He smirked. Oh yeah, didn't I tell you? My check hasn't come through yet. You'll need to cover it again. Again. As if I was his walking bank account. As if my salary existed for his convenience. As if I'd forgotten the last few months of temporary help he'd promised to pay back, but never did. Something inside me hardened so fast, so suddenly, I almost felt my heart lock into place. I looked at him across the table, really looked. At the charm. At the practiced smile. At the fake innocence in his eyes. And I realized he wasn't ashamed. He wasn't sorry. He wasn't even nervous. He was comfortable. Because he thought he had me. And that was the moment I knew I was done. I wasn't going to save him. I wasn't going to fix him. I wasn't going to mother him. I was going to save myself. The day everything surfaced wasn't a day I planned. It was a day that simply arrived. The way storms sometimes do, quiet at first, then undeniable. It was a Saturday morning. Bright. Warm. Birds hopping across the fence like they had no idea my world was about to turn inside out. Marcus was in the shower, humming loudly the same tune he always hummed when he thought life was going his way. I was in the kitchen packing a small overnight bag. Just essentials. Just enough to leave for a few days without raising suspicion. Not running, just stepping away strategically. My lawyer had warned me, once men like him suspect they're losing control, they panic. And panic makes them unpredictable. I listened. So I moved quietly. Slowly. With a steady heart. But life has a funny way of revealing the truth, even when you try to walk it out gently. There was a knock at the door. Not soft. Not hesitant. Firm. Purposeful. I froze. Marcus was still in the shower, the water pounding in the background. My heartbeat quickened. I opened the door cautiously and found Lisa standing there again. But she wasn't alone. Behind her were two women I'd never seen before, each one holding a folder. Their faces looked tired, drained, but determined. Lisa stepped forward. I'm sorry, she said quietly. We didn't know where else to go. I opened the door wider without thinking. Come inside. They entered with the heaviness of survivors who'd come carrying their own truths. Each sat down slowly, as if their bodies remembered too much weight. Marcus was still humming in the shower. Unaware. Unbothered. Unprepared. One of the women, a soft-spoken lady with silver streaks in her curls, opened her folder and said, My name is Denise. I was with Marcus for 3 years. My stomach tightened. She continued, He did the same thing to me he did to Lisa. Drained me dry. Left me with debts I'm still paying off. She had papers. Printouts. Old emails. Bank statements. The second woman, younger, maybe early 30s, swallowed hard. And added, He took out a credit card in my name. I didn't find out until after he left. My throat closed. Lisa placed a gentle hand on mine. And he's trying to start over again, she whispered. With you. The room was silent except for the sound of water running in the bathroom. That water felt louder than anything anyone had said. Like God himself was giving Marcus his last few peaceful minutes before the world he'd built finally cracked open. We all heard it. The water shut off. The pipes groaned. Footsteps approached. Panic flickered across everyone's faces, even mine. But just for a moment. Because fear is what he expected. Strength is what he didn't. Marcus walked into the living room towel-drying his hair, smiling like he had no idea life was happening without him. Hey babe, who's he froze? Lisa. Denise. The younger woman. Me. All sitting together. His towel slipped from his fingers. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. Just stared, the calculation in his eyes swift and cold. Then came his voice. "What is this?" I stood. Calm. Slow. Steady. "Your past," I said softly. "And your pattern." His jaw clenched. What the hell does that mean? But the charm was gone. The mask had slipped. His anger flickered just beneath the surface. Lisa stood, her voice gentle but firm. "It means we're done protecting you." Denise rose too. "It means she deserves to know who she married." The younger woman added, her voice shaking but brave, "And it means you don't get to ruin another woman's life." Marcus took a step forward, not physically threatening, but emotionally towering like he always did when cornered. "Everybody calm down," he said through gritted teeth. "Y'all don't understand," I raised a hand. "No, you don't get to speak first anymore." He blinked. And for the first time, he looked small. Marcus tried to defend himself. He tried charm. He tried tears. He tried the victim card. He tried anger. We sat through all of it. Silent. United. Every manipulation. Tactic exposed. Every lie matched with evidence. Every denial countered with the truth from multiple voices. Eventually, he realized the performance was over. His shoulders drooped. His jaw slackened. His voice turned flat and icy. "You're all insane." Denise shook her head. "We're free." I picked up my small overnight bag and walked to the door. Marcus stepped in front of me, blocking the way. "Where are you going?" he demanded. "Somewhere safe," I said. "You're blowing this out of proportion." "No," I replied softly. "I'm finally seeing it clearly." He opened his mouth to argue, but I walked right past him. And the women followed me out, like a quiet procession of survivors reclaiming their lives. Marcus shouted something behind us, something angry, something desperate, but I didn't turn around. Not once. The sun outside felt too warm, too honest, too beautiful to look back into the darkness I'd just escaped. The moment I stepped onto my porch, my neighbor stepped out of her house. "I heard yelling," she whispered. "Everything all right?" I looked at her for a long moment. Then I nodded slowly. Everything's finally beginning to be all right. Word spread fast after that. Neighbors who'd seen Marcus yelling on his phone late at night. A coworker who'd overheard him brag about women who take care of him. Someone who recognized him from a past relationship he'd destroyed. The truth blossomed through the community like wildfire, not to shame him, but to protect the next woman. Sometimes public consequence isn't humiliation. Sometimes it's illumination. I didn't go far that day. Just to a small rented room above a friend's garage, the kind of place that smells faintly of old wood and lavender cleaning spray. It wasn't fancy, but it was quiet. And quiet was something I hadn't realized my spirit had been starving for. I sat on the little bed, staring at the sunlight spilling through the blinds, trying to understand how my life had spun so far out of control without a single explosion. Just whispers. Just charm. Just a slow unraveling of who I was. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Come home. We can fix this." Another. "You're overreacting. Those women are crazy." Another. "If you don't come back tonight, I'm done." I stared at the messages, each one revealing another mask. Charm. Gaslight. Threat. A perfect cycle. A cycle I was no longer part of. I turned the phone off and set it face down on the nightstand. For the first time in months, I slept without dreaming of someone else's needs. The next few days felt strange. Not peaceful. Not painful. Just unfamiliar. Like walking into a house after a long trip and finding everything exactly where you left it, but somehow different because you've changed. I woke up early, sat with a cup of tea on the small balcony, and breathed air that wasn't heavy with someone else's expectations. I cooked for myself. I listened to music I loved. I cleaned the space until it felt like mine. Meanwhile, my lawyer worked quietly and efficiently. She filed paperwork to protect my income, drafted separation documents, sent Marcus a formal notice demanding he vacate my house within 7 days, requested a freeze on any joint applications he may have attempted. She moved with the kind of precision that made me feel less alone in the fight. On the 3rd day, she called. "He received the letter," she said. I closed my eyes. How did he react? A pause. Then, He tried charm first, then anger. Then he hung up. I nodded to myself. It made sense. People who rely on manipulation don't know how to function when you remove their stage. She added gently, you did the right thing. I didn't answer at first, because doing the right thing doesn't always feel good in the moment. But I whispered eventually, I know. When the 7th day came, my lawyer accompanied me to the house. Just in case. The drive there felt long, though it wasn't. Every street looked familiar, but carried a different weight now. When I stepped onto my porch, I could feel it, the silence inside. Not peaceful. Empty. I unlocked the door slowly, half expecting him to be there despite the legal notice. He wasn't. The living room looked untouched, but something was missing. Not furniture. Not belongings. A presence. A shadow. A thief of peace. I exhaled deeply and stepped inside. In the bedroom, his drawer was empty, every folder gone. But that didn't matter. I had my copies. My truth. My clarity. And most importantly, my freedom. Healing didn't happen dramatically. There were no inspirational speeches. No grand revelations. No sudden burst of strength. Healing came in small moments. The first time I cooked dinner and realized I wasn't bracing for criticism. The first night I fell asleep without listening for someone else's footsteps. The morning I looked into the mirror and saw a woman who looked tired, but not broken. I started therapy. I started journaling. I spent time with friends I'd slowly drifted from without even noticing. My mother came to visit one afternoon, bringing peach cobbler and a hug that lasted longer than usual. I'm proud of you, she whispered. Tears filled my eyes. For what? For choosing yourself before someone else swallowed you whole. I cried then, not from sadness, but from relief. 2 weeks later, Lisa called. You all right? She asked softly. Yes, I said. More than all right. She exhaled a warm, gentle sound. I'm glad. We were all worried. We talked for nearly an hour about life, healing, rebuilding. About guilt that didn't belong to us. About choices that felt impossible but were necessary. Before hanging up, she said something that stayed with me. You know, sometimes we think we failed because someone fooled us. But the truth is, the only failure is staying once you know. Her words wrapped around my heart like a soft blanket. I wasn't a fool. I wasn't weak. I wasn't broken. I was waking up. I kept the house. Kept my job. Kept my life. But I didn't keep the part of me that once felt I had to shrink so someone else could shine. I learned to listen to my intuition, not the noise around me. I learned that charm is easy. Consistency is hard. And love isn't real if it costs your peace. Some evenings now, I sit on my porch with tea, letting the quiet settle around me. And instead of thinking about what I lost, I think about what I reclaimed. My boundaries. My dignity. My future. Myself. Some nights now, when the world settles and the house grows soft and quiet, I sit on my porch and think about the strange way life saves us. Not always with miracles. Not always with angels. Sometimes, with a warning you never expected from a person you never thought would stand beside you. My husband's ex-wife didn't come to hurt me. She came because she recognized the look in my eyes, the same look she once wore when she was drowning and didn't know how to call for help. And maybe that's the part that still stays with me. How women, even in their pain, will reach back and pull another woman out of the fire they barely escaped. There's a quiet beauty in that. A quiet strength. I look back now and see myself clearly, a woman who wanted to love deeply, who wanted to trust sincerely, who didn't realize she'd married a man who built futures on the backs of women he never intended to keep. But here's the truth I had to learn the hard way. Some people love the idea of you, but not the responsibility of caring for you. Some people take softness as permission. Some people mistake kindness for weakness. Some people only show up to collect what you never agreed to give. And when you recognize that, you don't fight for them. You fight for you. If my story means anything, I hope it means this. Your heart is precious. Your peace is priceless. And love, real love, should never cost you the person you are. Now I'd like to ask you, would you have believed his ex-wife if she came to warn you? Tell me in the comments. And if you have a story that changed you, broke you, or rebuilt you, I'm here and I'm listening. Subscribe for more real stories every day.